All right, welcome everyone to Beginners Google Drive. And I will tell you, we're so grateful to have you all here today. We have different schools, different departments that are here. And I just wanted to say that in the year 2021, for the first time, we now have Beginners Google Drive. We also have Beginners Microsoft Excel and also Beginners Microsoft Word. And I'm going to tell you how that came about. Because of all of you, our wonderful staff at San Diego Unified, we get some great feedback to help direct us as to what's needed in the district. And simply a few people had asked me and said, Mr. J, your classes got lots of information, but they're a little too fast paced. Is there any way we could have a class where we slow things down and maybe repeat some steps a few more times so it's easier to follow? And that individual happened to be fairly new to Google. And I thought that was a very fair observation. And so that's why we now have these beginner classes. So we also have the Google Drive Basics course, which we cover many topics in 2 hours. We'll probably cover a few less topics today, but those topics will be covered in greater detail or at a slower pace, if you will. So thank you to all of you for your positive feedback and helping us have a better training department for all of you, because that's what we're here for. All right, my name is Thad Jesperson, and let's see what we're going to do today. Okay, things we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about Google Drive, what it is and how it works. And it's important to understand how that works. We're going to talk about Google Drive, the online handbook that I created for you, and then Google Drive user interface. That's what it looks like when you're in Google Drive. All of the different features in there, we're going to try to go over as many as all of those as we can. How to upload files and folders. Very important to know how to do that. We're going to do that today with a Word file. And we're also going to do it with an Excel file, and maybe even a couple more if we have time. And then we're going to talk about organizing those files and folders. We're going to talk about how Drive works when we have files and folders and how we can make our Drive suit our needs. And then I'll just tell you that file storage for Google Drive, if this were my personal Yahoo email address, Google account, then we only get 15 gigabytes that we're allowed to store. And to be clear, that's like Microsoft Word, Excel, a PDF, a photograph, something like that. All of the Google products, all of the Google apps like Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Sheets, all of those don't count towards how much storage there is. So, but none of that really matters, because kudos to San Diego Unified. They have given us at our sandy.net Google domain, which we access through our email address, we have unlimited storage. And so you may see in a little bit that that's why I store all of my very large files, video files with 2-hour trainings on them and all of that. So thank you, San Diego Unified. We're going to talk about finding files and recovering them or restoring them. We're going to talk about the Drive file search feature, which is really impressive. And this is something that's changed a lot over the last while. And you're going to see just what a robust, amazing search capability Google Drive has. And that makes sense because the greatest search engine on the planet is Google, has been for a couple decades, and it will probably remain that way. So we're also going to talk about how we can actually have Word files and Excel files automatically converted into the Docs format. We'll explain what that is. We'll talk about how it's done. And there's actually 2 ways to do it. And I have one that I prefer, and I'll share with you why. And then you can decide how you want to convert Word and Excel files and other things into the Google Doc format. And then there's a neat feature that we have in Google Drive. It's called the file tree feature. And it just allows us to search for folders and different content within our drive without changing the way that the desktop appears. And you'll see that in just a couple minutes. We'll briefly mention about Google Drive notifications and settings. And what is Google best known for? Besides their search engines, is being able to share things. So if I have a file in my Google Drive, I can share it with one person or 10,000 or many more. I can also do the same for a folder, and we'll talk about how that's done when we get into the uploading and organizing files and folders. So that's what we're going to be covering today. And we're just going to jump right into it. Got a couple more things to share with you before we do that, but let's see here. Let me go ahead and get rid of that for now. And so one of the things that I have sent to you is access to our training calendar. So nearly all of you have seen this. In fact, anyone who signed up for the course probably came through this way. So this has evolved over the while, and we have courses here from last year, but we have the entire quarter all the way up to March represented here. So I just want to share a couple things with you. We used to only have like 8 classes that we were offering. Those 8 classes were offered by 2 different people. And back in November, the other person that was doing the Google stuff, I was doing Microsoft, needed to be reassigned to something else. And so I volunteered to take over because I've taught these in the past. And so now I'm teaching all 8 of them, except for there's more because I added some beginners classes. So we've got a very robust training program here for all of the Office apps, both Google and Microsoft. And here in this training calendar, we'll keep things up to date and you'll have access to it. So let's just take a look at what we have here. So beginners Google Drive, our learning objectives, you can read right there what that's all about. Drive basics, Docs basics, Sheets basics, going down to Forms basics and Slides basics. You may recall if you were looking at the calendar last year that Slides was just a 15-minute portion of Docs, and I felt that they both needed, you know, full commitment to the entire time because there's so much to cover there. So I did that. So again, we've added a beginner's course to Microsoft Word and also one to Microsoft Excel. Again, you can see the learning objectives there on the right, basically the things that we try to cover in that 2-hour period. And so all 12 of them are right there. You may also notice that these titles here are of the class are blue with an underline. And so that usually means that we can click on something and have a link. So let's take a look at where that takes us. If we click on that, let's see if it'll take me where I want to go. All right. If we click on that, I'm in edit mode because I'm the editor. If we click on that, it takes us to the Google G Suite Office Apps web page. This is something that I created over the holiday so that you all would have more information available to you. We have a menu on the side here for navigation to be able to get to all the different courses that we have, including our videos, which I'm adding more to all the time. And very soon this one will be added because it's a beginner course, which you haven't recorded yet, but we're recording now. And so this is basically what it looks like. So there's the G Suite courses that we offer. Again, we're in beginners today. And so all the classes are there. And when you click on one, I'll just click right there, it takes you to another web page where it has a complete course description explaining what it is, why this was designed, who it's made for, along with those learning objectives down here that you saw on the calendar just a few moments ago over here. And then down below that, we have course materials. Anytime I have something for the class that I want to add to it, I can put it down here. And again, I'll be adding things to this all the time. Right now, it just happens to have the Google Drive Online Handbook. And you may recall that that's one of the things that I actually sent to you via email. And so if I were to click on that right here, it would pop up in a PDF, because that's what this is. This is actually in my drive right now because of the way I did this. And so there it is. This is a pretty slick thing that we have, because even though in the Microsoft world, when you get Microsoft 2013, you install it on your hard drive on your computer, and there it resides, and it doesn't change. Even in 2016, 2017, 2018, we're now in 2020, it doesn't change on your computer until you install a new version of Microsoft Office, like Microsoft 2016 or even 2019 is available. But in Google, that's not how it works. It's not a program that you download to your computer. It actually exists up in the cloud. In fact, when we're here in our Google Drive, everything you see here is up in the cloud. So let's talk about Google Drive for a second. This is our browser, and I'm in Google Chrome. It's kind of like Firefox. It's kind of like Internet Explorer, or the new version, which is called Edge. And this allows you to be able to go to certain web pages. Here's the web address right up here for where I'm at right now. And it's all happening up in the cloud. It's all happening via the internet, not on the hard drive or a computer. So let's think about that for a second. What does that mean? All right. So what is the internet? What is the cloud? Well, it's basically a bunch of servers in some building somewhere. In fact, the Google server farms are the size of maybe 4 Costco's put together, and they have them all over the world, and they're redundant. So if one gets taken out by a meteor or something like that, your information is still safe because that's where they keep all of this information. This drive, this interface we're looking at right here for Drive, which we're going to talk about over the next nearly 2 hours now, all of this is up in the cloud on the server farms hard drives and in their storage, not on my hard drive here. All right. And that's pretty cool. So that means that every time I click on something, and I click here, and you see maybe something different's happening up here in the top and different things I'm clicking on. Every click, every movement, every keystroke that I do in any Google product at near the speed of light is going to those server farms, changing whatever it is I'm making a change to down here, and then it comes back and is displayed on our browser, not on our desktop, not on our hard drive or our computer, laptop, iPad, whatever we're using. It's not on that per se, it's just in the browser. And that's the basics of how this works. So that's pretty cool. So if we go back to where we were, online handbook. So if I've made 100-page plus or minus 100-page handbooks for Microsoft Office, both beginning and advanced, Word or Excel or something like that, I can make that. And if we don't have a new version of Microsoft Word for a couple of years, that handbook's going to stay accurate, nothing will change, and we're good. Or stated differently, if it's 2020 and you have Microsoft 2013 Word on your computer, then you can download my handbook for 2013, and it's going to be exactly accurate and correct because nothing changes. Now, I just said that Google Drive and all of the Google apps reside in the cloud, or stated differently, in server farms, where all these big computers control and store all of the things we have in Google, including Google Drive. So because it's up there, it's in the cloud, and Google, who is a very big company, and they have a very smart men and women that are engineers and software writers that are constantly making Google Drive better and all of the Google apps. These features over here, some of them are new. The way that our search works, we're going to see that a little bit later, is being improved all the time. It would be really hard to create a handbook that's changing every week in some small way or maybe a large way. So what I did was I simply went to the Google web pages where they have descriptions on how to do things for Google Drive, like how to use Google Drive. I'll click on that. All right. And if you look up here, support.google.com. This is not Mr. Jesperson's writings here. This is what the Google people have put together to teach us how to do something. And in this case, this is a tutorial on how to use Google Drive. And step-by-step instructions there. Sometimes you'll find videos depending on what you click on, and sometimes screenshots of what you're working on. But always there'll be up-to-date information on how to do that. So for example, let's get out of here for a second and go back. If we go down here to something else, so organize and find your files. Let's see. So find or recover a file. So let's say that 4 years ago, the way that Google Drive found and recovered a file is different than today because they're always upgrading. Doesn't matter. This online handbook that I created is nothing more than a bunch of links to the Google website pages. So I'm going to click on that. You can see it's opened up a new page in my browser. Here's where we were when I clicked on it. It opened up a new page in the browser, and it takes me to the Google support pages, in this case, how to find or recover a file. And it's very accurate, up-to-date information available there. And then sometimes there's little pop-outs where you can have more steps that are available to you, more detailed information, all kinds of stuff in there to help you understand how better to use Google and what a wonderful thing that is. So is this a plus or minus 100-page handbook like I make for Microsoft Word and Excel? No way. This is way better. This is a full color deal that would be the equivalent of hundreds, if not thousands of pages provided for you with, again, tutorials, sometimes videos, screenshots, all that. But wait, there's more. You'll see there's a blue line here under computer. These are the instructions for if you're using a computer. And it's different than if you're using an Android device. So here are the steps for the same thing, how to find and recover a file if you're using an Android device. And again, all these little more buttons where you can expand and get more information about that. And look, there's more. iPhone and iPad, those are different instructions. All of these platforms are very different and specific to each other. And so the instructions for how to do this find or recover a file in an iPhone or an iPad is indeed different than a computer. So Google is always updating and making this information accurate, which makes this online handbook one of the best handbooks I've ever created. And again, all I had to do was simply go to those different sections, copy the name of this section, and then copy the URL or address of where that section is in the Google support pages, and then just paste it onto this this Google Doc that I then turned into a PDF so it's easier to send around. And so you have that. And I sent it to you yesterday in the email. But I will remind you that we have this Google website that I've created for you with all the Google Suite, G Suite Office apps. And we have all this information for you. So if we go to the main page, go back to here, and you go all the way down to the bottom, in addition to all of the different courses that we offer, we have the training videos that are there. And so I opened up a Google account, or I'm sorry, a YouTube account. And so I have a couple of the classes in there right now. This takes me many hours to get to this point because of editing and then rendering the video and then doing different things. But I'm just real quick, I'm going to show you what we have. And eventually we'll have our Google, our beginners Google Drive one here. But this is what it looks like. And we can also make it bigger by doing this. And as you can see in a second, it goes straight to the video from the last class that I taught. And you'll hear me talking. Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to There I am. Isn't that cool? So that's the video that's available to you. I'm going to push pause. And just know, again, this was created in YouTube. So like all things YouTube, they're trying to advertise for themselves. And the minute I push pause or whatever, it's going to say, hey, here's some more stuff. Here's how to work on a utility trailer. Something I was working on before because my trailer broke. So whatever you were looking at in YouTube, it's going to give you suggestions, but that's okay. We have this now available to you because of a YouTube channel, which I created. So, which by the way, YouTube is an awesome thing. Started like 10 years ago, a couple of years into it. Google, king of the world, queen of the world, went and bought it up and paid billions of dollars for it. So now this is a Google product. And so this website was created in Google Sites. It's an app kind of like Docs or Sheets or Forms. And so because it's a Google product, this is why it's in YouTube and it all works together and all of that. And so that's why it says YouTube instead of something else. But it certainly makes it available easy for us to have all of that. All right, so if I go back to the main web page, and again, we see all of our classes. We see the training videos that we have. Down below that, we have the IT calendar. And if I clicked on it, of course, it would take us to this calendar here where we just were a second ago. And, oh, wrong way. Oh, where was I? Oh, I get talking so fast, I forget where I was. There's where I was. Sorry about that. All right, so if you go down to the very bottom, beneath all of the classes, beneath the training videos, you get the G Suite training materials. And so in here, I'll always be adding more stuff, but all of the online handbooks I've made, not just Drive that I sent to you, but Doc Sheets, Forms, and Slides are there. And if you click on it, why, you'll be able to go to that one. It'll open up, and again, it's the same thing as you saw before, but this time it's for forms. And so all the details and links and things for form are right there. So that's pretty slick. So that website's been created for you, and there's lots of information on that, and just know that that's the case. And since we're talking about it, let me get rid of this one here. We also have one for Microsoft, another one that I did over the winter break so that we could have all of our information. And you'll notice that we did the same menu on the side here, training videos at the bottom, all the different classes that we can go to. And so trying to keep it the same format. So once you learn how to navigate the Google one, while coming back to the Microsoft one, it's going to be easy to understand. And as you can see down here, I have not yet put the the course materials, which I need to do that. This is a work in progress. I work on a little bit every night after my daytime activities are done, and then try to get these better and better for you. But those are there for you. And again, you can access the calendar from there. And let's just take a quick peek at that. So not only did I give you all the descriptions of all the different courses, you can click on any of these and it will, the Google ones will take you to here. And then the Microsoft ones, of course, will take you to here and to those main Microsoft web pages, which is helpful. But when you get to the bottom, you'll notice it goes right into October. This was our last quarter. These are the courses that we were teaching. And of course, if you recall, I said that there was 2 people teaching these classes, myself and my coworker, David. But that's not what we're doing here in January. And here's a link for you to go faster down to January, skip all those other months. And so now all of those classes are being taught by me. So this is a work in progress. I'm trying to get as many courses as I can available to you. We currently now have 65 classes. In an email I sent out not too long ago, I said 64. I've added another one. And just so you know, there's a Google Slides Open Lab tomorrow at 8 a.m. You can click here. It will take you to ERO, where you can look at it, and then there's a registration button on the right. And please know that I've got a number of emails saying, hey, Mr. J, when I click on your calendar and I try to go to the class I'm looking for on the link, why I get there and there's no registration button. Well, the way they designed it, and this was a PowerSchool product, it's way the heck over here. So if you're zoomed well in, like very close to this, or these letters are really big, you might have to scroll at the bottom to get to the right to find that registration thing. But you can certainly register for that. And the Open Lab idea is that I'm not actually doing a presentation. People are throwing questions out and then we dig into it, and then it kind of goes like that. So somebody had requested that because we didn't have one in January, and I accommodated them and made that happen. So there you go. There's classes all through January, February, and March, all the way till then. And eventually we'll get the next quarters out and so on and so forth. So all that's been done for you. Please share this calendar link with your coworkers, share these Google and Microsoft web pages, and just know that somewhere on the staff, what do we call that? The staff portal in the IT department, in a little subcategory somewhere, is office skills training. And I apologize, it's very hard to find it. When you go to the staff portal, there's all these things, all these links. There's even old office training information, and it has within it old stuff. And I'm not in charge of that. I can't control that. And so someday they'll get those things taken down, but this is the current one. And just know that all the information that this points to are right here. And if you click on that, it takes you to this calendar. You already have it. And oh dear, I got too many pages opened up. Where was I? Okay, sorry. Oh, I was over here. Sorry, got way too many things opened up. So the calendar takes you to the calendar we just saw. Microsoft Office apps takes you to this one, and I won't get lost this time. We've just seen that. That's great. And then, of course, the Google G Suite Office apps takes you to this one here. So even though you may not be able to find it, this particular website, you have all this other information available to you just through the calendar. And of course, every time we have a class, I will send you an email with links to all of these things. And then the last one, of course, is professional learning, which is simply where you would go to sign up for a class and search for a class. Maybe you need to take a PeopleSoft or PowerSchool or something like that. So that's something that's been done just recently. And again, that's all available for you. So just know that this is a work in progress and we're getting used to this Zoom world. And I will tell you that we may only have 15 or 20 people in our class today, but we've had classes with as many as 150, which is remarkable. And I will tell you, in the first couple of months of doing Zoom classes, the 10 to 15 people or so, which fit into our computer labs at the IMC there in Kearny Mesa, you could only get to maybe 100 or 2 people in a given month, and they had to drive physically to go somewhere, be stuck in traffic for a half hour or more because it started at 8 a.m. And so we didn't get that many people taught. Well, guess what? Now through Zoom, in the first couple of months, thousands of people have been part of these trainings and classes. And now we've had, I don't know how many thousands, but quite a few. So please, this is a great new way to do it. We're getting to a lot more people, and all of these have been designed for you. So thank you for being here. All right. Now that covers all the housekeeping and all the resources we have for you. Again, work in progress. Things will be added to these websites all the time, and the calendar will be updated with new things added to it. So keep those links available to you. All right. So here we are. Let's get started with Google Drive. So the first thing I will tell you is we have some people here that have been using Google Drive for a long time and are familiar with a lot of the features, and they want to learn just a few more things, and you're welcome to be here with us today. But we also have individuals who have started maybe a new career. Maybe they've retired from another job somewhere and they got a job in their little community working at a school site, and they're not very familiar with Google anything. Maybe they're not familiar with even computers because their job didn't require that. So now they're digging in and trying to figure it out. And that's what this course has been designed for. And I will tell you that my heart goes out to all of you that are seeing some of this stuff for the first time or have very limited experience, because it can get very confusing. And so we're going to do our best to kind of open up some of the mysteries here. I apologize for those pauses, but if I don't keep lubricating my throat, why, it's not going to work out too well. So here we go. This is kind of like our desktop, if you will, but it's within a browser, and it's our Google Drive desktop. And so the first thing I want to point out is this is my sandy.net Google Drive, because we're in the sandy.net Google domain. And so our district has worked out with Google to be able to have this. And so I explained before that Google, because it's in the cloud, can make changes at any time. They can make the search feature way better. We'll see how awesome it is now. They changed it just a few months ago. They've changed the trash features, the things that you're allowed to do down there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But not only can Google change all this, but we have within our district a sandy.net Google domain administrator. And that administrator can turn on and turn off any feature they want to. For example, if we go over here to the Google Apps waffle, that's what I call it, you'll see that we have some links to get to a few things pretty quick. There's my account, there's my calendar, there's Drive and Sheets, you see all of that. And by the way, if you see something on there that's important to you, like maybe you're building websites at your site, and kind of like I did for the Google and Microsoft stuff, then you can left click and drag it and put it right up there and let it go. Now that's right up there where you can find it, because you can see there's a lot of things down here. But for me, I kind of like it where it was, which I can't remember where it was. I think it was there. All right. So again, this is our sandy.net Google domain. This is what's available to us. Yes, we can move things around, but you'll notice if you look around, you're not going to see in here Gmail. Gmail is like Microsoft Outlook. It's like a like this right here. It's an email thing or whatever, and it works really well with other Google products. All right, but we're not going to see that in here, because our administrator has decided that we're, as a district, are going to keep with the Microsoft Outlook. And so last I checked, it's not even available to you. Now, I'll just share with you up here. This is where we are right now. And this is my sandy.net, because you see a picture of me. If I go to my personal Google Drive, here it is, and I do some, work for school on here, my personal one, there's a picture of my wife and I. And if I click on this waffle here, why, it looks a lot different. Yes, I can still move things around and do some cool stuff. That's great. But down here's Gmail. I have access to that because it's not the sandy.net. So just know that not only can Google go in and change things and make things better, improve the search, add something called priority. This is a new thing they've done recently, but also your administrator can change things. So just know that if you're working on this and dadgummit, you're working hard, and suddenly you come back and something looks different, like this button used to be red. I don't know why they changed it to white, but they did. But they also changed some of the features in it, and we'll look at those in a second. But they're always making changes. So that's one thing. Also, my desktop, if you will, my Drive desktop is going to look different than yours. Why? Because it has my files in it. It has all these folders you can see here. In fact, it says folders. And they're all right here. They even look like folders. Some are different colors, so I can find them. Some have this little icon right here, and I'll just tell you right now that that tells me that that particular folder is shared with one or more people. All right, kind of like if I go to right here, you can see this little icon here. This is a Google Doc. This is where we did our calendar that we were looking at. And you can see there's a few people in there looking at it, but we know it's shared because of that icon. All right, so that's pretty cool. And then down below, or this first part right here is where our folders are, and up here is our quick access. So what is this? Let's take a look for a second. You've opened this, or you open this frequently. That's right. This, you can see just with that little tile that that's the calendar we were looking at. And it says you open today. That's my Google G Suite Office Apps website that I created for you. And then the Microsoft one as well. And then here's some documents that I opened up earlier today with the first class. And we're going to do that today in this class. And so it says, you open this today, you open this today. You'll notice that these little icons here, this one has a W because that's Microsoft Word. When Google created Docs, kind of like their version of the Microsoft Word, Google Docs is also blue, but it looks differently. It's got some lines on it. All right. And when we get to the Excel ones, it's going to be green with an E for Excel, or I'm sorry, an X for Excel, because that's how they do it. And then it's going to be a green one with some lines on it. It looks a little bit different. And we're going to try to pay attention to those because they all have significance. And the better you get at identifying them, the easier it'll make it on you. So this is the Google Websites apps, just simply called Google Sites. And that's the icon for that. So that's why they all look different. All right. And then down below that, we have a bunch of files. And so we can see there's different looks. So again, that's a Google Doc because of the little thing that I see there. This one's a Google Slide because it's yellow and looks like that. Here's our green one. This is actually a Google Sheet. And over here, we have a Google Form because it's purple. It looks like that. Another Docs. Over here is a picture file, and that's a little icon for that. And so if we scroll down, we can see a whole bunch of different icons. And if we took enough time to scroll through all of it, we'd see all of them at some point. But you'll notice that I have tiles here, so I can see this is a slideshow, and I happen to know this is one that I did for the slides class just by looking at it. And so I kind of prefer to be able to see the tiles like that, kind of like up here in the quick access area. But I want you to understand something, that Google, because it's awesome and because it's very, has a lot of features to it, it can be a little bit confusing, all right? I will tell you that there's two ways to look at this. This happens to be the grid view. I call it the tile view, but Google calls it the grid view. And if you look up here in this toolbar, straight across from right here, we're in My Drive, and we know that because that's all you see up here. As we go deeper into other folders, you'll see more on the crumb trail, the breadcrumb trail they call it, showing up over here. It's kind of like a navigation bar, if you will. But we're in My Drive. We're looking at quick access. We're looking at the folders. Let's take a look at a couple of these. All of these folders here start off with numbers, and then it goes alphabetically, C's and E's and G's, all the way to the Z's down here at the bottom. And so I better get rid of that right about now. I apologize, that's from our first class. Move to trash, gone, isn't that neat? All right, so we have the ones that are called, that start with the letter Z are here at the back. And we'll talk about how that's arranged. But those are the folders, and here's some files. And so the first one is .mla format. This happens to be a template that the school district provides. The next one's a slide called To Master View Test. And then there's a Google Sheet To Master View Test bar, maybe this says chart, we're not sure. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because I want you to see something. I can go up here and it says List View. And if I click on that, watch what happens to my Google Drive desktop. First thing you'll notice is that the tiles for quick access, all 5 of them that we saw before, are still there. And all of our folders are still there right at the top. And if we were paying attention, all those first folders started off with numbers. And then we pointed out that it goes alphabetically, C, E, G, M, M, O, all the way down to our last folders. I know this is the last folder because all these folder icons tell me that, but then we start to see that this is a doc, This is a slide. This is a Sheets, a Google Sheets, and so on and so forth. And if you remember, the last ones were the Zoom recordings and Zoom website files. And you may recall that they were actually that color. In fact, because it's a beginner class, let's go back. Now it says grid view. Before it said list view. It's because it's offering to us to go back. And sure enough, we look at the last couple folders there. They're the same color and they're in the same order. Just remember that when it's putting it in order, it goes this way, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and down the next line and so on, not this way. And it could be a little confusing sometimes. And again, numbers go before letters, and actual punctuations like a dot actually go before the numbers. It's just the way Google has set it up. And that's why you see these dates up there. All right. And then of course we see the files we pointed out before, MLA format, 2 master view, slide, and then we also have 2 master view test with a sheet. So when we go up here and we go to list view, that's exactly what you're going to see in the list view. Again, quick access doesn't change. Here's all of our folders. The last couple of folders are the Zoom one, starts with a Z, and then there's the .mla format, 2 master view test, and 2 master view test bar chart 1. So sometimes people simply like to have it in the list view like this so they can read all of the details and get a little bit more information right here over to the right. And so that's your choice. You can keep it that way if you like. Again, as I mentioned, I prefer to have it in the grid view. And whereas it's true that you may not be able to, like in the case of this, to see the entire title, if you hover over it and you wait a second, it'll tell you what it says, 2 master view test bar chart 1. So I can actually see all of that. But wait, there's more. So just as in the grid view, you could find out more information about who owns it. And by the way, whenever it says me, it's talking about my sandy.net me. And if you happen to see my name, that's actually my name, as the owner, that's actually my, that's my personal Google account. And I might have created something here, and then I simply shared it with my sandy.net me. So that's why you might see my name in a couple of places, but there's all that information. And you know, when it was last modified, all that can be important. But again, I'll tell you, I like it in the grid view. And there's something more that's really impressive that we can see, and we're going to see this on and off today. If I click on something like my Zoom recordings, if I double click on it, it's actually going to open it up and I get to see the contents of it. In fact, let's take a look at that real quick. My drive, that's where we were. And by simply going down here and double clicking on Zoom recordings, I've now opened up whatever's inside that folder. And not only that, our breadcrumb trail is right here. It's telling us where we're going. It's showing us where we're going. So what's inside this particular folder here that's green? It says Zoom recordings. It not only has a bunch of recordings from the Zoom classes. This icon, by the way, I don't think you've seen that yet. That's an MP4, which is the type of file that's for videos. All right. And I've got lots of them in there from all the classes. And then I have to go in there and I've got to, I got to edit them. I got to do a bunch of different things. And pretty soon it's available for you on our websites, or I email you a link or something like that. But inside this Zoom recordings, again, inside the Zoom recording folder that we have, in addition to all of these files for video files, I also have email addresses. In fact, if we click in there, you can see the icon is for Google Sheets. It's the it's like the Excel of the Google world. It's a spreadsheet, and there's information in there. In fact, if we look at the dates here, this happens to be in alphabetical order again. So 105, the 5th of January comes before the 7th, which is today. And here's our class here. So if I double click on that, then it opens up a Google Sheets file, and you can see there's all your addresses. This is what I do so that I can send you information and all of that. I can simply just copy like that, right click, and then just copy it, and then boom, I can send you guys an email very quick. So I have that in the email addresses folder. And where was that? And now you can see this navigation chain here. So I can navigate up here. I can go back to the folder that email address was in, or I can go back to the email addresses and it shows me where I'm at. And if there was another folder in here, you could just keep clicking, clicking, clicking to get there. or you can just navigate back and forth like this. So again, I'm back on my drive. It's where we started. And again, we could have it in list view like this, but I prefer to have it in grid view. And if you would, just for now, keep yours in grid view. It might make it easier with what we're working on today if you're following along. So let me say something more about that at this moment. This is my Google Drive, sandy.net Google Drive. And these folders, every one of them I created, I made. And so that I could, except for this one was shared with me, so it's here. So yours might look different. And that's kind of one of the confusing things. You might open up your Google Drive for the first time and realize, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of files in here. People have shared with me a whole bunch of things and I didn't even ask for it. And maybe because you're part of a department or a school site, your name is on a list somewhere, your name gets added to something and then pretty soon they're sending you things. And so that could be the first level of confusion when you get all of these files and you didn't even ask for them. But we're going to talk about organizing that in just a little bit. So let's just go just a little bit further. So when I'm on this Zoom recordings folder here, if I single click, I select it. And you'll notice that up here, these icons just appeared. They weren't there a second ago. In fact, I'm just going to go below it and click. Now you can see it's not selected. There's no longer those little icons there, if you will. So what of that? Well, I will tell you that we have this information button here. It says view details, which is really powerful. And right now we're just in my drive, but I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. Let's see what it says. All right, it's my drive. I have two sections, details and activity. And so that was interesting. In details, it says select a file or folder to view its details. That's great. We're in my drive right now. It says it right there. We go over here to activity. And it says 1:50 p.m. you moved 8 items into the trash. That's right. I got rid of a folder that was from this class this morning. And if I go down here, I can look at all of the things that I've done today, and they're all there. And if at any time there's something that I need to see from one of my colleagues, whatever, in the ed tech department was working on this, I could click on it right here and I could go to it. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's amazing. And where'd that come from? Right up here. It's this information button that Google has all this information and it's got it down to the minute. So understand that they don't have some amazing secretary somewhere typing down everything you're doing. It's all computer programs, algorithms, and it's all being controlled. And how can they do that? They're not on my computer. I'm on their computers through my browser, across the internet, into the cloud, to the Google server farms, where all of these programs, these apps, if you will, are contained. And because at near the speed of light, all my clicks, everything I do, when I add a folder, when I change the color of the folder, it's all happening up in the cloud and the Google server farms. Well, then it's one easy step next to just have this information displayed for you when you request it. And how do we request this information? We simply hit the I button over there and we get it. So let's go down to Zoom recordings. I'm going to just select it one time. If I double click, it opens it. But if I just select it, then we can go over here to the I and click on it, and then we can learn a little bit about it. In fact, you can see that it's green down here in my regular desktop, and over here it's also green, and we're in the details. So it says the owner is me. That's my sandy.net me that owns this. I created it. Where is it? It's located right in my drive. And that makes sense because we're just in the drive. And so you have some basic information here. When did you open it? When did you create it? Do you want to add a description? So in case you don't look at this folder for many months, you want to know what's in it or what it's about, you could write yourself a little paragraph or a small book if you want about what that is. So it makes all that available to you. But again, activity for Zoom recordings, this one here, it shows what items were created and when. And again, if you want to click on any of these, this is that video file I was talking about, because it's an MP4. Going back to yesterday, last month, at some point, it might say last year, depending on what kind of stuff you've done in that particular folder. So just know that information is available to you, who you shared it with, who else worked on something. And I don't know about you, but that is extremely impressive that all that information is available to you. And it can go back a very, very long way. And again, you can click on anything and get to that spreadsheet from that time whatever, it's all available to you. And where is it available? Right here in the information thing. I can click it there to open it, and I can click it again to make it go away, or whenever you see an X, same idea, I can close it as well. All right, so that's pretty cool. And just know that if we open up something and we go into another one, we want to find out information about another folder, we just simply go and click on that, and then it will do the same thing. The activity just in this folder, the email addresses. So think about that. It's like a personal secretary following us around and keeping detailed records of everything we do, and every folder, every file, everything you work on, it's available to you if it hasn't been thrown away or destroyed, or in the case of someone sharing it with you, if they stop sharing it, well, you don't get to have it anymore. But other than that, it's always going to be there, and that's pretty slick. So let's go ahead and click that right there. Let's get back to my drive. Now you've seen me use this by clicking on the breadcrumb trail to kind of move back and forth. Also just know, besides clicking here, I can always go up here and click on Drive. Okay, so you'll see me doing this a number of times today where I'm resetting my page. And I will do that frequently so that you start to become familiar with at least what you're seeing in front of you right here. And again, it's mine. It's going to look different than yours. You may not have a purple folder called 2020 Google Forms class or whatever, but just understand that this is the layout of all that. All right. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12. I have 15 folders here, and I'm about to make another one. And I suggest if you're following along, maybe watching this video, doing this later, if you want to follow along and do it now, then what we want to do is we want to make a new folder. And let me just, before I do that, I'll make sure that my share is working. Share is working. I usually have a green line around this whole thing telling me that it's being shared, and there's no green line right now. If somebody would be so kind as to unmute themselves and just say, we can see your red dot and you're on your Google Drive.
We can see it.
Perfect. I'm so happy that I'm not disconnected and alone by myself. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Sorry about that. Zoom is kind of a tricky thing, and it seems to do weird things now and again. And when my green sharing line is around, is not there, then I get a little nervous. So that was helpful. Thank you so much. All right, so here we are, and we want to make a new folder, and it's very simple. And again, there's always multiple ways to do something. So we talked about this by clicking it, it resets our drive. So if something's been changed recently and we want to make sure it's there, we can reset it by clicking there, or we can click here. So we haven't looked at this one yet. This used to be red, and Google decided to make some upgrades, and they made it white to kind of let you know there's some new stuff in there. So if I click on it, let's take a look real quick. So right away we can see folder. There's a plus sign there. So this is saying, hey, you want to add a folder? We're going to want to do that in just a minute, but I'm not going to click on it just yet. So you want to upload a file or upload an entire folder? Those are the options right there. And just for a moment, let's talk about that. So when you have your iPhone or your Android phone, and you see a new app somewhere, or maybe there's an advertisement that says, hey, download this app, download this, download that. You know, it's your bank. Hey, download the bank app so you can, you know, send in electronic checks and you don't have to go deposit checks at the bank. They're always saying download. Let's talk about that for a minute. Whether it's the iPhone or Android phone in your hand, or your iPad, or it's your desktop computer, or even if it's your school laptop that they gave you, you have a hard drive or a memory chip in all of those. And so, yes, when you're adding something to it, maybe it's it's a phone app, or maybe it's an app or something for your desktop computer, you're downloading it, you're taking it out of the cloud, and it's going to be stored on your hard drive. Well, we talked about that earlier, that Google does not reside per se on your hard drive. It resides up in the cloud. And so if we want to add something to our Google Drive right here, and in a moment, we're going to add some files. We're going to make a folder to put those files in. But when we want to add those files, or even if we want to bring in an entire folder, it's uploading. That's why it says that. All right. So again, we can create a folder here. We can upload a file to our Google Drive. We can upload an entire folder with a bunch of files in it. right here in our Google Drive, but we also have some other options, Google Docs. I go over here, I can create a blank document, or I can get one from a template, something that's kind of already started to have us get started. Same with Google Sheets, Google Slides, Forms, but wait, there's more. So there's all of these Google apps that are available to you to open up. And then of course, there's a whole bunch more. If you click here, it kind of opens up a whole nother window. But here's the basics. And we're gonna start another folder, but I'm not gonna click here because I'm here to tell you that if you right click in some places, look what happens. The exact same menu is available to you, including with the blank document and a template if you want. And you notice it went to the left this time. It's only because there's not enough room over here, it decided. Maybe if I expand that just a little bit more, let's see what it does now. Still to the left. That's just great. So anyway, we can right click in a number of places and that's available. But you'll notice if you right click over here, that's not happening. Up here in the quick access, not happening. So depending on what you're right clicking on, different things will happen. So if you're somewhere in this general area here and you right click, then we can make a new folder, and that's what we're going to do. So whether you use the new button, new folder, or come down here and you right click somewhere, and let's just go ahead and click on new folder. The first thing it's going to say is, hey, what do you want to call your new folder? Well, guess what? I'm going to call mine, you can call yours whatever you want. This is just for practice. Today's, I'm just going to call it beginners folder. That'll work. All right, today's beginners folder. I just decided I don't like the name of that. So guess what? I can go right up here. I'm going to do something that's a little easier. I'm going to do 1-7-2021. Sound familiar? That's today's date. So that'll help me recognize it later because I have a lot of stuff. And so once you title it however you want, you just click create and you're going to get it. All right. So here we are, and we're looking at our folders, and we noticed before that we had, in fact, what did I just do? I'm trying to figure out where I was looking at that. I somehow have zoomed in or zoomed out. Oh, that's what I did. I made that a little bit bigger. Sorry, I wanted to make it look like it did before. So again, we had 3, 3, 3, 3, and then we had 2 over here. And I added today's folder to it, and there it is. But you notice it didn't end up in that little empty spot that was there. It ended up over here. And again, why is that? Because this is set up right now in alphabetical order. And of course, Z comes after T, and S and O and the rest of it comes before T. So that's why it's there. So let's talk about that for just a second. This is in alphabetical order. Again, Google is a very sophisticated product. And this is what leads to some of our confusion when we're first using it, because we don't realize all of the options. So first things first, let's look over here. It says name. The names of these are in alphabetical order. And this right here, this arrow, happens to be indicating the direction, or actually this is an option to change the sort direction. I would imagine if we were really thinking about it, going down would mean alphabetical order, starting at the top and working our way down. So again, we have numbers come before letters, and then the letters are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, which is why it showed up there. And so you'll notice that it has the option to reverse that sort order. And remember, just real quick, this was the .mla because I told you that dots come even before the numbers. And then we had all these number ones here and all that. So if we reverse the order, it's not just our folders reversing. Now you see the Z's up top, and then you see today's folder right there we just made. And maybe you named yours something different, that's fine. And now look at our files. All the Z files are at the end. And if we scroll down at some point, we might get back to that one that started with a dot, and we'd be in that order. So just know that we can reverse the sort order, and we can sort alphabetically by name. So that could be confusing, because if you accidentally, this doesn't really, it's hard to see that when you got all this other color in front of you and you're moving around, you're trying to move quickly, you might have just clicked on that by accident, not even realizing it, and suddenly everything's scrambled. You're like, what the heck just happened? So just know that you have control over sorting, and you have control over putting it by name or whatever. And here's where it gets a little confusing. I will tell you that I always keep it in the name category, but sometimes you might want to find something that you worked on recently, or you opened recently, or you was modified or something. So if you go here, here's the sort order. We just did that. But if you click on name, look at that. We have some options. Take a look at that for a second. The check mark tells us that we're actually being sorted by name, or in this case, alphabetically by name. But we also have the option of last modified by me. What's the difference? Well, if you remember, over here, I have this Camtasia folder I was sharing with you, and it has a little share icon. And if I were to take the time to click on that, and you know what, we've got time as a beginner's class. I'm going to click one time to select it. I'm going to go over here to the information button, and let's look at the details. So the owner, it doesn't say me, it says Thad Jesperson. And I can look at the icon. This is my sandy.net icon. And so whoever's furthest on the left here, that's the owner. In fact, it tells me Thad Jesperson is the owner. All right. I shared that folder from my personal Google account to my sandy.net Google account. And it says it right here. All right. And so there's that information there available to us. And I'm going to go ahead and just click out of here real quick. And so if I had modified that or done something, and I was the last one to do it and I knew it, I could click on that and that might show up at the top, right? But what if it was modified by someone else? Maybe that particular folder is shared with 12 different people, or an entire department, 150 people, or whatever. If somebody makes a change in it and you want to be able to see those changes and you're trying to find that folder somewhere, then you could just say last modified. Or if it's something that you just open up, maybe you did not modify it, you just open it up, there it is, you can click on that. So again, we could try it and see what it looks like. But notice all of these folders just got scrambled. So the last one that was modified was right there. And then, yes, you can change the order. And so it can get a little confusing. So this is actually the last one that was modified. It's right there. I don't know why it switched to the other one, but it does. And so these are the reasons that things can get confusing, is because you have so many options. So last modified, last opened by me could be different. All right. So, and again, it's a sort order. Is that it? Did I open up the SIS team folder? No, I haven't done anything with that in a long time. That's why it's at the back. It's actually here. So you have a sort order to deal with, and you have these other options. I'm here to tell you, keep it in name. And that's why if you have it in the alphabetical order, numbers first, followed by letters, I'm always going to be able to find my Zoom recordings really quickly down here, because they always start with a Z. And of course, our folder today, I know it's pretty close to a Z, so I can kind of get a better guess of where it is. That will make your life easier. Let's talk about these colors now. All right. How hard is it to change a color? Well, you heard me say that if you right click over here or there, different things happen. You right click in here, you can make a new folder, upload some files, whatever, open up one of these apps and many more. Watch what happens when you right click on top of today's folder that we just made. Now we have a whole bunch more options right here. So we can open this with some other app or something. We can share it with someone. We can get a link and then send that link and then share it that way. We can figure out where the heck this is located if that's something we're concerned about. Add a shortcut to Drive so we can just have more than one place where we can click to access that folder, all kinds of stuff. If I want to move it, I can click here and I can put it deep inside one of these other folders or whatever. I can move it there. Add to start. Pretty straightforward and simple. That's just kind of like, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. All right. And look down here. It says one folder added to start. You want to undo it? No, we'll leave it there. That's actually over here. It's kind of like a favorites, and we're going to talk about that later, but I just went and did that. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to right click on it again. And so in addition to that, we could also rename it. We could click that and watch what happens. Then it's going to give us the option to start going in there and click and changing this and that. I don't want to do that right now, but let's keep going a little further. Change color. Right now we're in that default charcoal color. Okay. And because I have so many bright colors around where I am, green and whatever that is, purple, fuchsia, different ones, vanilla, kind of a yellowy orange color or whatever, let's come up with something a little different. Doesn't stand out as much, but I'm going to choose, wait for it, chocolate ice cream. Thank you, Google, for making our colors fun. There we go. And as simple as that, boom. Now I've got a brown folder. And what's more, when I go up here to my information button, it's also brown. And then it talks about when it was made, all this different stuff, any activity, what things are happening, that's when it was made. We haven't added anything to it yet. We're going to, but not yet. All right, that's pretty cool. And then real quick again, just look down a few of the other ones. If you want to search for something in there, you can start a search. It's just in that folder. If there's a lot of stuff in that folder, that's pretty cool. You don't have to search your entire drive, just search at what's right in there. I'll tell you, that did not used to be there. So this is a new feature that Google has added, and they do it all the time. Very cool. View details. Huh, I wonder what that is. Oh, look at that. It's the same thing that we just saw over here. Activity, details, same idea. That's pretty cool. And all that was from simply right-clicking on it. But wait, there's more. Download. Well, we know we can upload stuff into the cloud. Well, guess what? Anything you have here, pretty much you can download. And so we'll talk about that when we get to the Microsoft files and how that could be very handy. And then last but not least, we can throw it in the trash. Something I did earlier with the today's folder that I made for our morning class. All right. So all that's available to you there. That's pretty cool. So you notice if I click here and it's no longer selected, up here we have information and we have the list view, which changes it from grid to list, sometimes slowly. I think I broke it. Come on now. This is my chance to get a drink. Okay, not sure what's happening there, but that does sometimes happen. Just know we didn't do anything wrong. It's just got itself stuck in a loop. So what I would do is I just go reset my drive and go to there. And it takes us back. Oh, and look at that. It actually applied the list request that we just did. And of course, we can always go back and click that and send it back to where we were. All right, fine, fair enough. But I want you to notice something. I haven't selected anything here. If I select that one, it's got that darker bluish color, I guess, kind of like a highlight, if you will. It shows as it's selected. When I select it, new buttons show up here. All right. When I deselect it, those buttons go away. I call them buttons. They're just features, they're commands, they're shortcuts, or whatever they are. But again, let's take a look at that. What is this one? Get link. What's this one? Share with others. What's this one? Remove. That's the trash can. And look at all the more actions. Open with, shortcut to drive. These should look very familiar to you because all these are the same thing as if you right click down here. So just know that there's always more than one way to get to the same thing. So anyhow, because there's so many ways to do it, it can really get confusing, and I recognize that. And that's why we have this beginner class, so we can take the time to click on things several times. All right, so we changed the color, we did all that. Let's go ahead and double click on it now. I double clicked on it to open it. All right, so here's our file, we call it a breadcrumb trail or a navigation trail or something like that. So simply to go back to Drive, we click that. If we want to get back to this one, we double click on that. It opens it up. There's nothing in here. Let's look what it says. Drop files here or use the new button. We're familiar with the new button. When we do that, we can add folders inside this folder. We can upload files to this folder. We can upload other folders to this folder. Absolutely. Plus all these different apps that are here. Let's try right-clicking down here. That looks familiar. So again, multiple ways to do things. Remember, always click on things, double click, right click, just to see what they will do. All right. But I'm curious about this. It says drop files here. What does that mean? Well, let's just get to the corner of this, and I'm going to shrink this momentarily. Well, first of all, I apologize. I'll just say this, that this is, let's get rid of that. This is my desktop computer in my home office where I'm teaching this Zoom class today. And my wife, that's her right there, put a picture of 4 generations in her family. My mother-in-law, who turned 91 last week, bless her soul, my daughter and her daughter. So there's 4 generations here. So this, I only bring this up because this is my desktop computer. All the files you see here on my desktop computer, they're all where? Not in the cloud. They're on the hard drive of this computer. That's how desktops work. That's how laptops work. That's how iPads and other things work. But if we go back to our browser. In this case, it happens to be Google Chrome. And again, remember, whenever you're using anything Google Drive, you're using Google Docs, you're using Google Sites to make something, whatever it is you're using that's Google, always do it in Google Chrome. Don't waste your time in Firefox. Don't waste your time in Microsoft Explorer, any of those, because they don't work as well. And sometimes features just don't even show up. And so you'll say, mine's broken, it worked before, and now I can't access this feature in Google or that feature in Google. It's because the browser doesn't support it. So remember to always work in Google Chrome. And it looks like this icon down here at the bottom, if you can see, it's a picture in front of it because it's saying who owns it. This is my personal Google account. There it is, that's great. All right, so drop files here. Well, I'm gonna shrink this down a little bit. It says files or folders. If I wanted to take all my 2020 Microsoft class materials right here, I could drag this down here, left click and hold it. And look, it's giving me little tips on what to do. You want to copy that and shove it in here? Well, I actually don't want to, but I'm just sharing with you, you can. And it would end up where? Right here in my today's January 7, 2021 folder. We know we're there because it says it there. It's also giving us a little tip down here. I'm still holding my mouse key or my clicker, my left click, so I haven't let it go. So I'm just going to send it back there, so we're not going to put that in. If I wanted to, I could come up here and I could take this PowerPoint presentation that I have. And because that's a much smaller file, I'm going to left click, and just for fun, I'm going to drag it in here and drop it. And down here we get a little information thing. It says something's uploading. In fact, it happened so quickly, it says now it's complete. There it is. If I want to open it up, I could click right here. But of course, now that it's inside my folder, I can click over here and I can do the same thing. We're not going to bother opening that, but I'm just sharing with you how you can upload from your computer, in this case, my desktop in my home office. I can upload it through the browser into the cloud to the Google server farms, and at near the speed of light, it's now been added there. So even if I went over here and I erase this, this will always exist in the Google Drive until I decide it doesn't exist there anymore by getting rid of it. That's pretty darn cool. And what's more, we got this little information thing here. I'm just going to leave that there for now. So I wanted you to see that you could take things off of your desktop, your regular computer, and easily put that in there. And now I'm going to stretch it back up so we have a little more room to work here. All right. So again, you'll notice that thing that said, hey, you want to upload some files, drag and drop stuff here. We just did it. So that thing went away. But we want to put some more files in here. So let's go ahead and right click. Now, what we want to do is upload a file. And we want to upload a file, one of the ones that I sent to you, and I sent them to you simply so we could practice. And so I asked you to store them somewhere where you could find them. Maybe you have them on your desktop. Maybe they're in your downloads folder. Hopefully you know where those are. So let's take a look here. Mine happen to be in this section here, and I have more things in my folder than you do because I didn't send you everything. In fact, I didn't send you my PowerPoint presentations. And by the way, just as a reminder, depending on which way you're displaying your data, and you can change the way you display your data. This is Microsoft, this isn't Google. All right, it says Google Drive up there, but that's the name of the folder. And again, in Microsoft, you can have things in these little tiles or things to kind of look at it, so you kind of get a better idea of what it is. Clearly that's a PDF, clearly that's a Word file and Excel and so on and so forth. But again, in this format, I like to have the information this way. You can fit more on a page. And so you can still notice that this is a PowerPoint because of those little icons that are there, and the PDFs as well, and Word and Excel. And with a little practice, you can get very good at that very quickly and start to identify stuff. So I sent you a number of things. I sent you the Google Drive online handbook, which we've already opened up and looked at briefly. I highly recommend you explore that the best you can and find all kinds of new information in there. But I also sent you a Word file and I sent you an Excel file. So right now, I am not right-clicking to upload the file just yet because I want to share with you what these files look like first. So I'm simply going to my desktop computer file on my hard drive, and I'm going to go find that stuff, and I'm going to go, I know where they are. They're right here in my beginner's Google Drive, and there they are. So first one's first. This one's the simplest, so I'll open this one first. That was a little thing saying, are you sure you want to trust this? Or could be viruses. No big deal. All right. So clearly this is a user interface for Word. If you spend any time at all in Microsoft Word, you'll recognize the way that's laid out. All right. And here is a one of 4 pages, 1,400 plus words. All right. It's just quotes from authors. Happens to be William Faulkner and some books that he has quotes from, and then Ernest Miller Hemingway. And then it goes down to Alexander Dumas, and then ultimately Victor Marie Hugo and all of that. That's what it looks like. There's some formatting on this. Some things are indented. Right here we have this biographical information is it happens to be italicized and bold. And by the way, we use these both in the Microsoft Word classes as well as the Google Docs classes. So if you've been to those, this would look familiar to you, or you'll see it again when you come to our classes. So there's that. That's the Word file. I'm going to go ahead. And by the way, if it looks like it's part of this browser, it's not. It just happens to be sitting in front of it. This is its own little program for Microsoft Office, which again resides on a hard drive, not in the cloud, this version. All right, so then what does the Excel training workbook file look like? We'll open that up real quick. Again, this is what we use to work in our Excel classes as well as our Google Sheets classes. So this is a workbook that has a number of different things set up for exercises, practice in our classes. And the first worksheet happens to be called Sheet 1. The next one's called Last Name First, where we use formulas and functions to put this last name, comma, space, first name format. And then there's another activity where we do some more complex formulas in here to be able to split apart names in this case. And then there's a short version of a fake school with data. And then there's the full one with 473 students in it, with all kinds of information in it. Again, all these things are used in our classes, and I'm just simply sharing with you because we're about to upload these files and I want you to know what they look like. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down. That's my file browser on my computer. Let's go back to Google Drive. Yes, so we're still in Google Drive. In fact, just in case we've gone so many places we've forgotten where we are, I'm going to reset. It should look familiar to you. Quick access up here, things that have been opened recently by me, so on and so forth, our folders and all the files down there. And there's our today's folder that we did. So I'm going to double click on that, open it back up. We've already dropped and dragged and copied that to here. And just so you know, because of the way this works, this did not disappear. It still exists in my computer, my hard drive. It simply just made a copy of it. So just remember that. All right, make that go back up there, give me some more space. All right, so let's bring in one of those files. So I want to upload a file. I want to take it off my hard drive, my desktop in this case, and I want to put it up in the cloud into my Google Drive. So I'm going to left click on Upload File. And this should look familiar. It opens up. See, it says Google up here. It's opening up the same browser where I have, where I organize all my stuff. And wherever I was, whatever folder I was in, whatever the last one, it's going to be demonstrated here, or displayed, I should say. And so just know that you might have to say, oh, that's the one I was looking at was the wrong one. I know that my folder is in the desktop, so I click desktop, and then here's all the folders in my desktop. Again, this is my family computer that I use, and so there's going to be a bunch of stuff in there. And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, grandma's letters, there you go, all kinds of stuff. But I happen to know that in this one, I called it AAA, so it would be up towards the top. So I could find it. I double click on that. There's all of my Zoom classes, and by golly, we get to Zoom Beginners Google Drive. That's the one for today, and that's where we have all of the files. And so again, how did we do this? We simply right-clicked over here to upload a file to our Google Drive. I could have done the click over here as well, but it opened up this search, this browser file search, if you will, and we were able to find the files in a certain folder, and there they are. So the first one we're going to do is the Excel training file. And so I simply select it, and then I click open, and it will upload and land in here inside today's folder. Or there's always a shorter, easier way to do something. Just double click. Does the same thing. Down here it says it's uploading. Bam, just that fast. It says upload complete. And there's our little data down there telling us about it. And here it is. And again, this was a PowerPoint. This one is an Excel file. And that looks different, if you recall, than Google Sheets. It's also green, but it has like some funny lines. So just kind of get familiar with that. And that's pretty cool. We have that in there. Now, I will just tell you, like I said, that even if I erase that Excel file on my desktop computer, my home office computer, I will always have this Excel file here. And I will tell you that if I happen to be in Japan, I'm visiting somebody or maybe on vacation or something, and by golly, for some reason, I need that Excel file that I left back on my desktop computer at home in Southern California. And I thought, oh, I actually uploaded that to my Google Drive. Here's where Google Drive shines. Anywhere in the world with an internet connection, you have a computer, you open up your browser, you type in your ID and your password, your Google Drive opens up, and then you can access your files. In fact, I go straight to this one because that's where it was in my today's file. And if you right click on it, remember one of the last ones said download. I can download that file. And if I'm in Japan, South Africa, Russia, wherever I am, Northern California, I can have access to that Excel file. And by the way, it's an Excel file. It's 100% Excel. It's nothing to do with Google, but it's stored in our Google Drive. So just keep that in mind. That's pretty cool. All right. So let's talk about this for a second. There's something that you need to know about bringing in files that are not Google. All right. Google has made it so that you can bring those files in, as we just talked about, it's stored. They've also made it so that you can keep it somewhat an Excel file and make some changes to it. And it's kind of half Excel and half Google Sheets in this case. Or you can turn it all the way into a Google Docs format. Now, I know I said Google Docs, that's just the name for all of the different Google apps. So the Google Docs format means that this would become a Google Sheets document, all right? And so what are we talking about here? Well, let's get into it. This has changed a little bit over time, and it just changed not too long ago. But if I right-click on this, I have all these options here. You'll notice that we didn't have a preview button available to us before, and now it's up here available as well. Why? It's not there now. Where to go? Just one click to select it. I could right click on it, or I could use these up here. I'm just going to use this preview button here. And it's going to preview. It's going to show us. Not something we can change. I can hit erase. I can type in a bunch of stuff on my keyboard. Nothing's going to change. Yeah, it's letting me select it, but that's not a change. And so again, here is that sheet one. You remember the last name, comma space first name, full names, the entire 473 students I told you about in our pretend school. This is that file we use for both Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel class. There it is. It's just a preview. Let's try that again. I'm going to go back here. We'll see it says open with Google Sheets. That's an option, but let's just take this a little slower. So here we are. We uploaded this from our computer, and it's now part of our Google Drive by way of our Google Chrome browser. And there it is. And if I right click on it and I want to just see what this looks like without converting it, I just open up the preview and there it is. And you'll notice that it had this thing up here that says open with Google Sheets. Oh yeah, you want to open it? You want to be able to make some changes? You betcha. And by the way, there's that download button again. There's a printer button. So again, just poking around and looking at things, there's all these different things that you can do. Right clicking on stuff, left clicking, double clicking, does different things in different places. And it's always changing, so just know you could do that. Well, let's take our preview here. Again, we're in our, just gonna go back one more time. We're right here. This is the icon for our drive, right? We're in our drive. Happen to be in this particular folder where we have this file. I right click, I preview it. We're still in Drive, same place. When we want to get back to our Drive, we can hit that. But we're going to do the next step. Open with Google Sheets. Now watch what happens up here in our browser when I do that. It's opening up an entire new tab in our browser. So as it's opening up, you're going to see a couple things, but just to let you know, it's still in preview mode over here because all we did was click on this. So what are we looking at here? Oh, okay. There's sheet one. There's last name, comma space first name. Here's the, come on, Zoom, stop bothering me. There we go. Here's our fake school of 470 whatever students that are in there. In fact, Control End, a little so you can, it took us too far. Control Home doesn't work the same. So here it is and all that, and it looks like it's exactly the same thing as we saw before, but notice that here is the Google Sheets icon. And with a little bit of experience, we recognize, oh, this is the Google Sheets user interface. It has a lot of the same features as Microsoft Excel, but it's definitely different. There's a quick access toolbar down at the bottom, which is wonderful. And they have those in all of the Google apps. But I want you to notice something. In addition to all the different things that you can do in Google Sheets, this isn't exactly 100% Google Sheet. Look at this extension here. It's actually still half in Microsoft Excel format. I say half because it doesn't look like Excel. The file's the same, but it's still halfway in Microsoft, all right? Half Google, half Microsoft. All I'm going to share with you is what I've learned by going online to the Google support pages and reading up on different things. Yes, it's wonderful that Google has made Microsoft things available to us. And if I want to, I can come over here and I can start adding things and, whatever, and making some changes, even though I'm not completely in Google Sheets. It's like a half and half deal. That's okay. That's wonderful. But the problem is you could spend an entire day adding a whole new worksheet in here in this half Google, half Microsoft world, add some great formulas and functions and data and all that, come back the next day and find that some things are lost and you can't recover them. I told you that Google's amazing because you have your Google server farms up in the cloud. It's recording every keystroke. So why can't we find something? Has something to do with the fact that it's still Microsoft. Weird anomalies happen and you lose stuff. So here's the preview. Where did we get that from? We imported an Excel file, an actual Microsoft file. We did the preview on it. Once we got it, we simply opened it with Google Sheets. Didn't turn it into Google Sheet. We opened it with Google Sheets. It allows us to do some stuff, but it's still half Microsoft. So there's a third step that you got to take, and simply is this. Go to File and go down to here where it says Save as Google Sheet. And before I click on this, I'll just tell you to look up here. Again, start off with preview. We're right here, half and half Microsoft, half Google. We go to the file, go down and say save as a Google Sheet. It's opening up a third version. Here it goes. All right, so it stopped spinning and it's done. Well, it looks the same, Mr. J. Look, and here's your gobbledygook that you just added. Let's see if we can make some more of that. Yeah, we can do all kinds of stuff, but here's the major difference. It's now 100% Google Sheet, a Google product. You'll notice there's no file extension. And again, if we go back one step, there's the extension. And you'll also notice that the things that I just added down here aren't there because that's a different version. It's a different animal. And we'll see that in just a second. So just remember that in this middle one, don't use it. Just because I've read too many things about people losing all kinds of data. And that's true if you're in PowerPoint and slides, or if you're in Docs and Word. This middle half and half thing, these are two competing companies. And for some reason, some things don't play nice. Even though they're trying to pretend they're nice, there's something's getting messed up. It could just be a programming thing, who knows? But highly recommend that you don't do that, all right? So let's go back now and take a look at our drive where we were. We started off here in today's folder, and look, we have something new. So here's the original Excel file, the one that we saw a preview of, the one that we then said open up into Sheets, Google Sheets, and it kept it with the Microsoft extension. And then it gave us a brand new one that's 100% Google Sheets, and we can tell by the icons which one's which. And so it looks like that. And then I was able to make some more changes or whatever, and this and that. So what you need to know is when you upload anything that's not Google, you can convert it into a Google format. It's called a Google Docs format, even though it's a Sheets, or maybe it's forms or slides or whatever. It's called the Google Docs format. It's just what they call that. And those are the steps that you need to take to get it all the way. All right. So I will tell you that some people prefer to have whatever they bring in. If I drag in a PowerPoint, if I upload a file that happens to be Excel, they want it to automatically turn into a Google Docs format. There's a way to do that. And I'm going to share with you where that is. I'm not actually going to do it because I prefer not to, and I'll share with you why in just a second. But if you go up here into the settings, all right, in settings, you have lots of options for things that you can do. And so I go to settings, and you have some categories here. You've got the general, notification, managing apps. So I will tell you that there are many apps that are available for you to change the way Drive works, the way that it stores stuff, all kinds of apps that do all kinds of different things. Just the same as if you're in Google Docs, there's a bunch of different apps for that. So you can actually do mail merge in Google Docs if you use an app, because the regular Google Docs doesn't have that. So apps have their place. I choose not to use or add a bunch of apps to it, because if I'm teaching a class, I want my Google Drive, by golly, to look, you know, just like it looks for everybody else when they're first starting with it. But yes, you can go to settings, and yes, you can add a whole bunch of apps to it, and that's where you do it. Notifications, we said we'd mention that, so let's go ahead and do that. So the notifications we have right here, I have selected get all updates about Google Drive items via email. That's great. I actually have that. I'll show it to you. So if I go down here, there's my Google notifications. They all come here. Every one of them, whatever's going on, somebody requests access to something, they want to be an editor instead of a viewer, I get those messages and it comes right here. I simply set it up in Outlook to go to this folder. It makes it easy for me to find something. That's great. But notice that you also have this one, get updates about Google Drive items in your browser. So what does that mean? If I click that, as you're here in your browser, whatever you're working on, I could be on this website, I could be on this website here, I could be on this sheet. Doesn't matter where I am, I'm in the browser, and all of a sudden a little message will pop up, kind of like this one down here. But I choose not to do that. That's too distracting. I'll just collect my stuff later in my emails. But then there's the first option here, which is general. And let's take a look at this real quick. So the first thing it says is storage, 19.7 gigabytes used. Well, I've used a lot of storage because I have all my Zoom video files stored in my drive. All right, and you saw that before. We'll skip this one for right now. Language. Someone said to me in one class, Mr. J, my first language is French. And I was hoping instead of starred, I wanted the French word for that. Instead of recent, I want the French word for that, and so on and so forth. Everything in French. Can I do that? I said, I have no idea. So I Googled it, and it said, yeah, go into settings, into general, down to language. Click on here, and you can go through and you can pick not only one language, you can click like 4 or 5 languages if that's what you speak, and then you can toggle between them depending on what your preferences are. That's pretty cool. This one's talking about working offline. That's a whole nother subject, but not for our beginning class today. Density has to do with, you know, how busy things look on your desktop. I think it comes by default to comfortable because that's where we have it right now. And look down here, suggestions, make relevant files handy when you need them in quick access. Oh, that's interesting. It's selected. And if I go back, you'll notice on my drive, there's quick access. It's sitting right there. That's the default way that it comes. So just know that you could go to settings, go down to the bottom, uncheck your quick access, and then click done. And look what happens. What the heck? There it is. There's my breadcrumb trail, and there's nothing there. So you have some options. Take some time to poke around and look at things, and you can learn a whole bunch of stuff that way. You don't have to wait for a class to do it. You don't have to wait for a job aid or some kind of email saying, hey, you could do this. You just got to poke around a little bit. All right. And then there's some other things down here. You can take the time to look at that. I'm going to go ahead and keep my quick access toolbar or quick access tiles there just because that's the way it comes by default. But this second one that we skipped over, convert uploads. We talked about that. We're uploading our files to our new folder today. And if you check that box, it's going to automatically put it in the Google Docs editor format. Or I'm not going to check it, and I'll share with you why right now. So I go down here to today's folder, double click on it, I go back. Again, if I'm in Japan, if I'm in Timbuktu, if I have an internet connection and a computer, and for some reason I need this Excel file as an Excel file, I can just click on it right here and go download, and boom, wherever I am in the world via the web, I can gain access to those. And then of course, once I turn it into a Google Doc, in this case, an Google Sheet file, I do that and I actually have both. So there you go. It's not a bad place to store things. And yes, it does take this file here, because it's a Google, doesn't take up any storage. Anything non-Google, Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, maybe there's a picture file, maybe there's a PDF, something like that. That all, and especially in MP4, those videos, takes up a lot of space, all right? So just know that, but here with San Diego Unified, kudos to them. They've given us unlimited and we don't have to buy any more space. So that's a great way to do it. So again, if I wanted to upload at this point, another file, if I had selected that box up here, I got this box open here, so I can't show you again, but if I wanted to automatically do it, I could bypass these steps. But again, I like to have control of it. So I double click on that. It says it's uploading it. There it is. It's in Word format. I can right click on it. I can say preview. It takes me to here. I can take a look at the 4 authors we talked about and their quotes from their books and say, oh yeah, that's the one. And then I can open it in Google Docs. But just like in Sheets, when I open up a Microsoft Office file, in this case, a Word file, it's going to be half Google, half Docs. Yes, I can go in here and I can change stuff and delete it, whatever, or I can add a whole bunch of things, whatever I want to do. But it's been said that some of those things like disappear or changes that you made aren't there or whatever. We don't want to do that. So how do we get out of that? Again, we start off with the preview. We click up here. It takes us to the half and half version. To get out of that, we simply click File and go down to Save as a Google Doc. And it opens up another one. And as soon as it stops spinning, bam, there we go. No longer there an extension like in this version right here. All right, so let's go back to our Drive file. So again, we're here in today's folder and all the things we're doing are happening in here. So, and then we can see we have both the Word and the new one. So just one more thing about that. Wherever you are, and you got to pay attention to this breadcrumb trail that's up here, because if you want to create something new and you want to create it in this folder, then go to this folder, then right click on it and then say, I want a new Google Doc. And so I open it up and there it is. And I can just start making my stuff, whatever I'm doing. Apparently I can speak Icelandic. None of you knew that. I can go up here and just say, I don't want to call it that. I'll just call it practice. All right. And I'll just put some dot, I'll put some, how about some question marks? Is that really practice? Okay. And so there it is. I got my practice one. I go back to my, my today's folder. And where is it? There it is, right down there. If I want to move it, remember, you can throw it away. You can do all those same things, including move it. All right. All those things are available to you. So just remember where you are when you're downloading stuff or uploading stuff. When you're uploading things, that's where it's going to go to. And that's important. All right. So real quickly, we've talked about a number of these different things. Let's go down here to these folders on the left. And then we're going to end up with searching, which is a pretty cool feature. And I'll share that with you in a minute. So here's our storage. We click on it. It's listed in list form. You'll notice you can't change it. In fact, it even shows you right here, it's kind of in list form. And it goes with the biggest files, 4 gigabytes. That's my family Christmas one that we did. That's kind of fun. But all these other ones from work that I have, you can see the different sizes and all of those collectively. And I scroll down and it gets to the smaller ones. Now we're down to just 11 megabytes. These are all Word files. You're not going to find in your storage any Google Docs, any Google Sheets, any Google Forms, any of those, because those don't count against your storage. But again, it doesn't matter anyway, because our district has allowed us to have unlimited. So that's wonderful. And if I keep on going, at some point I'll get into Excel down here somewhere, or PDFs, and there's some PowerPoints and so on and so forth. So that's your storage. That's pretty cool. But again, that's not real significant for us. Trash. This is something that has changed in the last while. We got whenever there's a new change, sometimes they make it obvious for you in Google. Sometimes it doesn't. This one still has a banner that says after 30 days, items in the trash are deleted forever. So that's what they're talking about. It used to be that I put all my files in the trash, 10,000 of them. So in case I needed them, I could go search for them and they would find them in the trash and I could restore them. This is the folder, and I'll just click on it. This is the, it's not gonna let me open it without restoring it. I don't want to do that. But my point was, whatever that was that I threw away, if it's less than 30 days, I can restore it. And simply by doing that, by double clicking, I was going to show you what was in there. But anyway, the folder and all of its contents, I can restore it as long as it's before 30 days. Having said that, this is what was thrown away last week. This was last month. This was prior to that. And if you go down and you kind of look at some of these and you go up here to the info button, you might find out that some of this stuff, let me get rid of this icon here. You might find that stuff March 11th, 2020, I'm not that great at math, but I'm pretty sure March 11th is more than a month ago. What's going on? When you have folders that are shared, apparently, things change a little bit in the trash. They don't actually toss all of those out. Haven't explored exactly how that works, but to the best of my knowledge, that's what's happening, that all of these have to do with something else. Somebody else has made it or it's owned by somebody else. And so even though you have it in your drive, you can't actually throw it out permanently because someone else owns it or it's being shared, so on and so forth. But if you're the one that put it in the trash and it's not shared with anybody, in 30 days, it'll be gone, all right? This is your favorites thing, so you can put all your favorite stuff in here. I just put a couple things in here. You recall that earlier today, we did this one, and there's the info on it, created today. It's right there in their little favorites. That's pretty cool. So if you remember, we're here in our drive, you have your quick access. There's only a few here. In fact, with this information thing open, there's only 4. Now there's 5. There's no way to go left or right. So you can go down here to recent, and now you have all the ones from today that have been opened. Doesn't it look cool with the keyboard? That's why I put that there. I thought that was fun. You got ones from yesterday, earlier this week, and then you go on further back, and all those files last week, all the files that I work with all the time doing these Google classes, I can search through them in a chronological order. That's pretty helpful, all right? Shared with me. This is where it gets a little confusing if you're brand new to this, because if you're from a certain department or a certain school site, your name shows up on a list. People start sharing with everyone at the school site or everyone in the department. Your name comes up. Stuff gets sent to you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't even know it was being sent to you, but it's been sent to you. And it shows up in the shared with me section. And this too has changed a little bit over time. And again, look at this, share date. So last modified, wow. So you have all these different choices here, and you can reverse the order. So again, this can get really confusing if you have different ones selected. You're like, dadgummit, it was right here and I haven't done that many things in 2 days, so why don't I see it? Well, it has something to do with how you have it organized. So just pay attention to that. But with share with me, it's going to be here. But if you have something in here, and let's say this is something someone shared with me, and if I want to have this in a certain place, I can right click on it and look down here. It says add shortcut to drive. It used to be that you had to choose to bring it into your drive, and it came out of this folder, if you will, into your drive somewhere, and you can put it whatever folder you wanted. But now it simply says add a shortcut to it. But I want to tell you that makes sense, because let's look at my desktop here. Come on, stop fighting me. Wow, that's being fickle. There we go. All right. This isn't actually the sheets. This is a shortcut to get to that one. This isn't actually the Zoom thing right here. It's just a shortcut to get to. You click on these. This isn't the actual folder, but you can click on it to get to all those different things. So it's kind of like copying that same idea of thinking. And so by clicking that, then you can decide to move it and put it wherever you want, and so on and so forth. And then it becomes available to you. So that's shared with me. And then what they have recently, they've changed this. So quick access. So if it just happens to be that David's one of the most recent ones to have shared something with me. So that's what's up there. When I looked at this a few weeks ago, I had about 3 or 4 other people that were up here. But that's the shared with me section, and just poke around and look at what's there. Shared drives. You may or may not have these. We have in our department, the training department, 5 trainers. And so we have a number of different folders that are here. In fact, this says training calendars, pretty self-explanatory. We're going to open that up real quick. I double click on it. Come on, Zoom, double click on it. And inside that folder, again, we're in the shared drives, and inside that folder, the training calendars, we have the quick access, the most recent ones that were accessed. And then we have the different years that as trainers have done things. And so if I double click on 2018, I can see all of the 2018. There's January, February, March, so on and so forth. They're all there. And if I want to look at one and see what was happening on any one of those given months back then, there's all that information for the PowerSchool trainers, the PeopleSoft trainers, and me, the Google and Microsoft trainers, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty cool. And where is that? That's inside this folder, which is inside this folder, which is inside shared drives. So we go back to shared drives, we can see that path that we took to get there. All right. All right, so the next thing is, this is my drive. If I click on that, that should look familiar. It's the same thing as clicking up here. Well, now that it's I'm already here, it's going to give me a little drop-down menu. That's cool. But I can click here and it kind of like resets stuff, and you see things spinning. It's kind of like resetting it. That's all good. But what are these little buttons here? Let's take a look. So if we look at this little expand and collapse button, you see these in all kinds of apps. In shared drives, you remember that we had two main folders, IT trainers and training calendars. In fact, we clicked on the training calendars and we went down and we saw there was all these, we had the quick access calendars that were there, the last ones that were open, but we also had these folders. And then we clicked on the 2018 and we went in and we saw some files that were in there. In this case, they were Google Docs. They were calendars that were made. And you notice I did this little expand collapse button right here and nothing's happening. That's because what's inside 2018 are just files like these down here, not folders. If there were more folders, then it would have opened up again. But what did we just do? We started out on my drive right here. Nothing's changed, but I was able to do some exploring and poking around. And not until I click on something will this change. That can actually come in handy, because if every time you click on something, we'll go back to my drive, you click on it, Google Classes, and then you go there, and then you go to the master Google Class files, and you can see our little breadcrumb trail getting bigger. And then we go into, I don't know, this one here, and then there's a whole nother one after that, and we're going past and all these different things. We kind of get ourselves lost sometimes, and we're trying to find something. We're just going all over the place. So wouldn't it be cool if, like in the case of a shared drive, let's do this again. Go here, 2018. So maybe I'm in the 2018 folder, or I'm in this place where I can look at those, and I want to find something else. I can go up here to Drive. And when I do that, recognize any of these? Remember the Camtasia folder that was shared? Here's our two Zoom ones. One of them was green. Here's our brown one, today's folder. If you click on it, there's no more folders in it. So that's all it shows you. But if you go to the Google Classes one, yeah, you can go all the way down to the master Google files. And by the way, you can always get between them. When you get the double arrows, you can drag over so you can see more details. And then you can just keep drilling down. And when you find what you want, you can just click on it, then it will change. This is called the Drive file tree, and that's pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna collapse that back. There it is, looks like that. And by the way, even if it wasn't collapsed and I was inside something else or whatever, and I want to get back to normal, hit reset. Takes you right back to where you were. That's a great button to have. So in the last couple of months, something I realize we're getting over time a little bit here, but let's just bear with me just a couple more minutes and we'll get some very cool things at the very end here. This is something that's been added in the last few months. It's called Priority, and you click on it and immediately we see some interesting things. Kind of up here where the quick access tiles were, we notice it has this famous author thing that we did. It says you edited today. Want to open it? You open this frequently. That's the IT calendar. You betcha, I'm in there all the time. Want to open that? This is an Excel workbook that I edited today, created today. That was my practice one that we did. Here's another one. And look, there's a little more button here. And so it brings out a few more things. Here's our Google Sites apps that I made, or websites that I made for you. Open these today. You bet I did. And it goes on even a little bit further. So in the priority section, it's pretty cool already. I noticed there's what it thinks is important to me based on activity. It puts it up there. So that's kind of cool. again, we could have went to recent and go to today, yesterday, last week, last month, whatever, and found it there. If we were on just our drive, we could have seen just 4 or 5 tiles, so that's pretty handy. And then down here it says create workspace. It even says hidden workspace. You click on that, none are there. I haven't taken the time to do this, but what I'm going to tell you, based on just my experience with all of this, creating a workspace, you can click on it, and then you'll probably be able to say, these are the things that I want to have in it. And so you can hit your priority thing, kind of like your favorites, I guess, but maybe have more groups that you can put in there. Just another feature. And so it's one that you just have to click on and explore. And if you want to learn how to do it, all you got to do is go up here and say, how do you use priority in Google Drive? And you'll get about 10 million possible answers. You'll get videos, YouTube things, all kinds of information on that. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we have navigated our way around almost all. And by the way, if you click on your account, you can open it up and you can change accounts, or you can go in and like change your picture and get some of your preferences and all that. That's where you do that. That's pretty cool. But here's something that's really slick. So I'm just going to go up here to Drive. And if I click on it, immediately I can go find some web pages that I've made, some slides, presentations, videos, documents, spreadsheets, PDFs, images. They're all there. And so here's some of my last searches that I did. All that stuff is there. It's really quick to go find something. That's pretty cool. And then let's just do that. Let's see these websites that I've made. So here's one that I did way back when. I opened that up. This is from a couple of years ago. So I haven't opened this up in ages, but there it is. It's something that I created that has all this information. To me, it's kind of blocky or whatever, which is why I want to create new ones. But if I go back to my search, then there's all the ones that I've ever made, because I've only made so many. So what a great thing that we had here was to simply go in there. I'm going to go backwards and click on this by just clicking the category, if you will. But wait, there's more. Advanced search. So in here, you could say type. What are we talking about? What is it? Is it a PDF? What is it? Maybe it's a PDF that we needed to find, and maybe you don't own it. So you could say owned by me, not by me. Maybe it's from David. David had something, and I want to know where it is, and I've got 10 million files in my drive. There it is. So here's an advanced criteria. You can look for all this stuff. So I'm just going to say anyone, anywhere. It could have been in the trash. This is back in the days when we had 10,000 things in our trash. Now we only have a few. It could be in our favorites thing, whatever. We can put all these different modifications on our search. Then we click search, and then boom. Even though you see icons that belong to slides and sheets and docs and all that, look at the bottom. These are all PDFs, every one of them. In fact, if I change this to list view, then it's real easy to see that they're all PDFs. And so there they are. That's one way that you can search for stuff. And if it was last modified on a certain month, you could have put that into the search criteria. And by the way, whether you're clicking here and down here in advance, or you're clicking right here, the same options are available to you. So that's where we are right now. Go back to grid view, and I have a chance to look at what those PDFs are. There's our intro handbook. And so it's just a great way to search for stuff. So what's the point here? The point is this. Here we are in Google Drive. We have all of these options to us. This is on steroids. It's 100 times better than what it was just a year ago, which was better than it was a couple years ago, because Google is constantly upgrading this. They don't wait until a new version in 3 years from now to suddenly give you all these cool upgrades like they do in Microsoft. They do it every week. And it might be something subtle, something small, something simple. You'll see it in your Google Sheets app. You'll see it in your Google Docs app. You'll see it in your Google Sites app. Things are being added all the time. So again, this priority thing is new. This search thing is fairly new. Those are some really slick things. And I'm going to call this the end of our beginning Google Drive. We've covered a number of things. I tried to be as repetitive as I could and not go so quickly that we've seen 15 things in 12 seconds and it's kind of hard to follow. But hopefully this is going to become more familiar to you. But just know, even Mr. J, who's been doing this for a long time, if I get something that I haven't been in a while, or maybe I'm seeing something for the first time, I have to poke around. I double click on things. I right click on things. Different things happen when you do that. And I have to explore and remind myself in some cases how things work. And so that's just the nature of computing. Just like Google Drive, there's 10 million different options. And then you multiply that by all the different things that you can add to it and how it looks. And then add the fact that our administrator can change some things, or Google themselves can change stuff. It can be very complex. So do not feel any way intimidated by all of this. Just know that it just takes practice. Like anything in this world, takes practice. So I just want to say thank you so much to each of you from all the different schools and departments that have come out today to learn with us. This is the first day ever that we've done the beginners Google Drive class, and I hope you've learned something or gained some insights and appreciate just how powerful Google Drive is and what a wonderful thing it is that our district, through the sandy.net Google domain, has made it available to us. And so that's a wonderful thing. And I hope you get really good at it. Share what you've learned with your colleagues, your coworkers. Share with them our calendars. Share with them our websites. Not that one, that's an old one. The one over here. And then pass the word on to these classes. So in just a moment, we're going to open up for questions and answers. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. You all are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. All right, if anyone has a question, have at it. Actually, I'm going to stop the video real quick because that's how we do this. Apologize.